What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast. And my amazing, bright, and fabulous friend, all the way from New Zealand, is Dr. Stephan Neff. Hello, Dr. Neff.
Thank you. Please call me Stefan. And Gary, it is an absolute honor and privilege to be a guest on your show. Thank you so very much for actually creating this platform to share raw and authentic discussions that are so missing in nowadays world. So thank you so much for having me as a guest.
Thank you for that. And yes, it will be raw. I
Okay,
think
bring it on.
we're gonna go deep and have some fun. So, Stefan, I'm
Oh
gonna
yeah.
read your intro real quick, and then we're
Yeah, go
just
for
gonna
it.
fire away if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Everybody, we have Dr. Stephan Neff is passionate about demystifying mental health problems and helping the people around him live a life so full of joy that yesterday is jealous of today. Born in Germany, Stefan has studied medicine at the prestigious Heidelberg University before traveling and working around the globe. Nowadays, he has settled down as an anesthetist in beautiful New Zealand and has become the best-selling author and advocate for mental health and addiction. He is
Mhm.
uniquely qualified in his role. After all, a lifetime of trauma has let Stefan down sorrows that only. I love this line. I'm sorry. I've read it 3 times and I still screwed it up because it makes me giggle. Stefan has tried to drown his sorrows only to find that the critters can swim. I don't know. I just giggle. I've tried it like 4 times. It's such a great line. As an alcoholic in recovery, he has experienced addiction and mental health problems firsthand. After successful rehabilitation, Stefan is now an expert in living a life so fantastic that alcohol simply has no role to play. Stefan
Mm.
shares his passion through his podcast, YouTube channel, and other social media that are all around the Neff inspiration title. His in his book Steps to Sobriety, he shares the lessons he has learned as a doctor and as a man. And the truth is simple. The past does not equal the future. Every alcoholic can turn his life around one decision at a time. This book shows us how to do it. But would it not make more sense to start earlier? Stefan believes that it is easier to build a strong child than it is to repair a broken man. His creative partnership with Belinda Maha has led to the beautiful Esmee the Mindful Mouse series, which addresses core beliefs that are laid down in early childhood. The adventures of Esmee and her friends follow the children to learn about emotions and mindfulness in a playful way and help grown-ups to put these life lessons into a daily practice. And that is only the tip of the iceberg for my friend, Dr. Stephan Neff. So again, welcome, 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 my friend. Thank you so much for joining us. I know
Oh.
it's early there, so I know it's
Oh,
pretty
it's fun. It's a
early.
beautiful morning here. And you're right. Officially, I'm beaming in from the future. Do,
Yeah,
do, 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 do.
that's right.
So
It's
if
the
you
day
wanted to know,
before when
that's
we
right. No, if you
confirmed.
exactly. No, it's actually a very beautiful future. The sun is shining. It's a cold, crisp autumn morning here in beautiful New Zealand. There's still a storm beating the shore here. I'm lucky after divorce, I lost everything recently. And so I'm living in an apartment of a friend above his workshop. So it's things have changed from
Yeah.
from the most beautiful picket fence kind of thing life towards a well, let's put it just like that. The old phoenix had to burn to ashes completely before the new phoenix can arise.
Yeah.
So, since your introduction was written, which was probably about a year or maybe 18 months ago, since then, there has been so much more trauma and drama. So for anyone of you who is thinking, "Oh wow, this guy has got it sorted, and now he will tell us exactly what to do, and then his life is beautiful, and there's gonna be rainbows shining out of his ass, and little unicorns trampling over the front lawn." Well, no, friends, that won't be because
So
trauma.
you won't be farting rainbows for us? Is that what you're saying?
No. Well, as you said earlier, I've got a beautiful face for radio, but I don't even want to go for what is coming out of my rear end. I think it's bad enough that there's a lot of BS coming at times out of my mouth, and BS. I think nowadays shouldn't be called what we know as BS. BS nowadays in my vocabulary means bad science. And with that, I typically refer to the heap of real bullshit that is out there when it comes to health, when it comes to mental health, when it comes to all of that. There are so many influencers out there who try to tell you what to do, and it comes with that kind of flavor of I know it all. Rest assured, I certainly don't know it all. But I had to learn a hell of a lot of things in the last 10, 15 years. And actually, starting very early. Because, you know, my life never was really roses. Come from the wrong side of the tracks. I'm in lower middle class. Parents always had to work. There was a divorce early. And, I wasn't probably the brightest, or at least I was not recognized as such until later. And yeah, I there was not so much joy in my life. And that really took a major hit when I was 13, and I became the victim of a gang assault. Wrong place, wrong time. Some dudes just wanted to have a good time, and for them that meant beating the thing out of me and pouring some beer over me and trying to kill me. And I survived that. I brought the ringleader behind bars. He threatened me. He will kill me in 3 years' time when he gets out of jail. And yeah, that was me at 13. No front teeth, they had been knocked out. And they basically, they, when I say they, the dental profession will not put permanent replacements or permanent things into your mouth as a teenager because you're still growing. So therefore, for the next 5 years, I had sort of temporary kind of rubbish in my mouth that from now and then fell out. And you can imagine what that does to the confidence of a teenager. So leave alone the fact that I had a rip-roaring PTSD. But that was the late 70s, early 80s. No one recognized that. Okay, this was just after the Vietnam War. So PTSD was certainly, even if it was recognized, no one offered anything. So there I was left to my own devices. And that with hindsight is very interesting because it established one of the core beliefs that so many victims of violence have, that there is no hope, that there is no help, and often enough sprinkle a bit of shame and guilt over it for whatever has occurred. And suddenly you have got this really toxic core belief system that holds you back from seeking help. And for me, well, how did I go about it? My bruises had not healed when I stood the first time on a mat of a dojo in Germany, because in Germany we've got police sports clubs, and there they train jujitsu, which was the German version, i.e., the military and the police came together, took the best things at that time from judo, karate, aikido, put it into a system with which you can subdue a drunken teenager or take it to the battlefield and rip someone's head off in no time. So I had the system there. I had a way out of violence, and I changed. I literally, over the next 5 years, I became Rambo. And that was the way of the warrior that I lived. So during the day, I was at school. Then I was stacking shelves to get some money in. And then I was training 3, 4 hours every day, come rain or shine. And it changed me completely. I mean, please, my body became something to look at. Never bodybuilder type, but, lean and fighting machine, which came quite handy later on when I actually ended up in university. 5 years later. So now 5 years of PTSD and bodily transformation, I now ended up in a different town. By now, I had realized the power of learning, and I changed from this mediocre kind of dude to the best at school, best at the next school, and with that, I could choose, yeah, my path I wanted, which was medicine. So lots of transformations there. And if you really listen between the words, lots of running away already, because I threw myself into the martial arts as an escapism, and I threw myself into learning as an escapism. So I was a workaholic long before I was an alcoholic. So looking at it in that angle. So, but then the magic happened. I moved away. It was the time before the internet. So I knew this idiot would never ever find me. I was in a different town. No way that he would find me. I had different people. I had a different social group, and I discovered girls. Girls discovered me, and since I had this actually quite good body, um, then there was only one magic thing missing, and that one magic thing turned up out of the blue on a Saturday, because it was Saturday lunchtime. I had met with two of my new friends from university. By that time, we were sitting in this beer garden, and in Germany, beer gardens are beautiful. Like there was this table under this huge oak, and it was summer, and the sun was shining down. It was beautiful. And by that time, we had probably ordered some chips, but they took forever, and we had already a liter of beer in us. When suddenly I heard this bellicose laughter coming out, and I looked around, who's laughing like that? And I had realized it was me. That laughter had come out of me. It was a sound I did not recognize. This was so bizarre. And yet, at that moment, also, this rain of dopamine came from my brain through every single cell of my body. And it was the most glorious feeling of love, of happiness. I felt my shoulders relaxing. I felt good the first time for a long time. And the brain immediately said, I want more of that. This is good. Let's lay down a memory forever. What was that? What was that? Was it the sunshine? No, it was the beer. Beer is the answer. So from now on, I had this indelible connection between alcohol and feeling love and feeling good. And now combine that, because the alcohol didn't make me mean, the alcohol made me disinhibited. So I'm probably not the best singer. And I'm probably certainly not the best guitarist. Let's be clear for that. But give me a few drinks. I bring out the guitar, we sit around the fire, and trust me, girls are coming like moths to the flame. And so here I was, good body, disinhibited, and it turned out that the alcohol had many other advantages. Initially, I mean, I say initially, the first maybe 10 years or so, I could control my erection with precision. So later on, I would meet a new girl and said, "Look, how long would you like to make love tonight?" And she would say, well, "What do you mean?" I say, "An hour? What do you want to do?" And she says, "Oh, well, let's just see." And then an hour later, she would say, "For Christ's sake, come to an end now. My back hurts." And it was that ability. So, alcohol was actually initially a friend, and who took away a lot of inhibitions, who took away a lot of negativity, and it was beautiful. Okay, we always need to recognize that when we look at addictions, when we look at any kind of behaviors, these behaviors are there because you're in pain, typically. You're running away from something, typically. So here we are turning around, just don't drink, or don't whatever it is. Why are you doing that? Why? Because deep down I'm in pain. Deep down I'm running away from something. And with that, we need to talk about some brutal reality, Gary. The reality is chemical addiction is at least 1 in 4 of us, probably 1 in 3, I would say. People are chemically addicted. If we now add to that other forms of addictions, the far more common ones, i.e., sugar, eating ultra processed rubbish, adding to that social, spending 8 hours of your time on probably meaningless things on your phone, etc. So behavioral addictions. I would say the amount or the percentage of the population that is addicted is probably in the 90s. Okay, 90+% of population show addictive traits, and I think that needs to be highlighted. And we see that. We see that as a doctor, as a functional medicine doctor. So it's interesting, again, coming from your introduction. Thank you so much. That was written 18 months ago or so. Since then, I have pivoted. I've retired from the field of anesthesia, something I loved and was very good in for 25 years. But equally, it had flow-on effects that were not good for me. So I've had become enamored and then addicted in a good way to functional medicine, to root cause medicine, to not saying, okay, which tablet can I give you? This is not a fluoxetine or Prozac shortage that you're showing here. You're actually showing some medical problems that are far more complex and that where we need to look at the root causes of why you're actually there. Why do I say that? Because nowadays, all these addictions and all our behaviors have really become so entrenched that they are the new smoking. So, smoking, we have recognized, is probably not good for you, despite the fact that there were ads about most doctors smoke camel because it's much better for you. Okay? Not too long ago. Nowadays, we know smoking is not good, but the new smoking is now a sedentary lifestyle. Us not moving much. The average step count of the Americans is what, 2,000 something, maybe 3,000 steps a day?
Maybe.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that's the ballpark. And when I say average, there are many people who are below that. So we know sedentary lifestyle is very closely linked with at least a dozen cancers that we now know. And we know that you living that sedentary lifestyle where you don't do much, where you are just living the way you're living, that is the same as you smoking a pack of cigarettes a day now continuously. It's the
Yeah.
same health outcomes when you look at that. So we see our population is getting sicker and sicker and sicker. The American population, meanwhile, there are more obese and morbidly obese people there than are those of healthy fat. So that's beyond 50%. And that only has happened in the last 10 years. So something has significantly changed. And don't blame COVID. COVID had one thing to do, but that started about 10 years ago. So hang on, that was pre-COVID. So something started there. And I think we're on a very rapid trajectory that is going down to hell. And so it's intriguing. There are a lot of signs that we are getting worse and worse and worse as far as our health measures are concerned. Certainly from a life satisfaction point of view. Recent studies, my goodness, more than 50% of doctors are burned out, and that is so true in many professions. Job satisfaction is often so poor. And we as a society, we have moved away from those sources that previously gave us joy, community, Christianity, or other forms of religion. We become more and more secular. And there's some good reasons for that too, for crying out loud. Talk about adverse childhood experiences in some cases where the church is directly responsible for it. But I'm saying here, church is responsible, not your religion is responsible. And if we move away from religion and just call it broader spirituality, why are there so many people who are seeking out just the next guru, the next person who can teach you, let it be Reiki, energy healing, sound healing, you call it whatever it is? Again, please don't get me wrong. Each of these things has got benefits. Each of these things, when done correctly, under right circumstances, for the right people, can be an additional string to your bow. Because typically, with all of those things, you're calming down. Whatever you do, you're calming down, you're breathing, your physical state changes, you become a very different person. And you switch off the fight and flight, you switch on the parasympathetic, healing, restoring kind of thing. I'm a flexibility yoga coach, but I'm also stiff as a brick. So please, if you see me doing yoga, yeah, your average board blank of wood is more flexible than me, okay? But doesn't mean to say that I can't practice it and work within my own limitations to actually become better. I'm a breath coach, so I know the importance of breathing, and I can change my physical state at any one time with certain techniques that I've developed. And like when you go to the gym, I mean, you look at these weights and you start sweating, and then 6 months later, you're throwing these weights around as if there's nothing, no tomorrow. And it's the same with when you start meditating, when you start breathing, etc. Initially, you feel like a dog. You feel, what the heck am I doing here? And then suddenly you get a tiny breakthrough. And suddenly you get a bigger breakthrough. And suddenly it's no longer so weird and it becomes actually a habit. But your body says, hey, you haven't done some breath work or some meditation or some quietness for the last 2 days. Are you all right? And shall we do something? Literally, these voices are coming now out of my head and or out of my deep conscious or from the universe. God knows where they're coming from, but they are quite cool voices. They're not saying, "Hey, come on, let's have a drink, let's distract ourselves." Well, it's rather, "Hey, do you want to check in with Source, and do you want to see what's happening?" And this is quite cool. Now, all these insights, all these changes, they happened overnight. They didn't come out of books. Okay, let's be quite clear about that. There was a time when I had probably 80% of the self-help books and courses that you can buy. Tony Robbins, you name it, I had them. Stephen Covey, name it, I had them on my shelf. Some of them I had even opened. Some of them I had opened and even read the first chapter, and typically with a glass of wine in my hand at that time, and think, oh, that's a good idea, and then never took action. So, you knowing something or learning something is one thing. You integrating it into your life in a joyful and positive fashion and turning it from a chore or yet another thing to do that I really ought to do one day into something that, okay, I'm actually missing something. Let's do it. That's a skill. And that's where the magic happens when you do those tiny changes, tiny implementations, but in the right direction every single day. And I think this is where really the magic lies. If you think, oh, I know, look, there's this new diet out there, keto, stone age, whatever, guided by the news guru. Well, good luck on that. 95% of diets do fail. 95% of New Year's resolutions fail by the 8th of January. Okay? So, you're big, let's do it all. Let's give it all. Yeah, about that. I've done Tony Robbins. I've been to his seminars. I felt, wow, I'm so empowered the first day. By the third day, I was actually knackered from having to jump up and down and changing my state constantly. Um, and I probably from those, I don't know how many thousands of dollars I spent, they were all wasted. Wasted because I didn't take action. So if I take that as an outcome, not wasted if I say, well, this is expensive tuition and I figured out what not to do. So if you say that as a benefit, cool. Then I benefited a lot from spending all that money. So I had to figure out what works for me. We were saying earlier about breathing and about the importance of the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So, for those of you who are thinking, what the hell is he talking about? Sympathetic nervous system, fight and flight. It's basically the saber-toothed tiger wants to eat you, do something. And unfortunately, we run that system to death every single bloody day. And it's hard because our body is not really designed for that. Yet we're living a lifestyle that constantly puts you in that state. We know that, and we can see the flow-on effects. If you say, well, what is the opposite? The kind of rejuvenation, restoring health point of view. Well, that's the parasympathetic state, the vagal state. And that's really nighttime. when we're supposed to switch off, when we're supposed to calm down. At nighttime, the various stages of your sleep, that is where the true healing happens. Your brain, for example, you probably didn't know, it has a rubbish removal system. Literally, there are little sets going around, and there's a system in there to get rid of the rubbish. Now, if you are scrolling to way beyond midnight and having a high sugar snack, and five of them actually at midnight, guess what? Those rubbish removal people there don't get the message and say, okay, God, we just keep the trash in. Obviously, he's still busy. We are not yet ready to clean up. So this lymphatic system is not working. Guess what? Next day, you don't feel so good. And we now live perpetually in that state of not feeling so good. And then you go to the doctor and they say, well, yeah, look at you, you're aging. Or oh, it's menopause. Or whatever newest excuse we have for not looking into the root causes of things. Many of us have never learned to be quiet. Beautiful recent study where they put people into a room without much to do in the room. It was a blank room, pretty much sensory deprivation kind of stuff. But there was a table, there was a button, and the rule was you have to stay 15 minutes in this room. No distraction, no nothing. The only thing you can do is either be with yourself or press the button. And every time you press the button, you get an electric shock. So it was not something pretty, you got an electric shock. The vast majority of people in that study, just people from here and there and everywhere, couldn't be with themselves and started shocking themselves. Now, the record of shocks in 15 minutes was 300 something. 300 shocks, painful shocks, rather than be 15 minutes with yourself. What does that tell you about our willingness to be calm and to learn techniques to actually regroup, to get out of the rat race, to be receptive to the answers that your brain has? And that is so amazing. So here we are when I talk about breathing and as a breath coach, I know that I can change your physical state from fight and flight very quickly into this different state of calmness. And I do that routinely for those people who have been guests on my show, Neff Inspiration. You know, before the show starts, I say, okay, 10 seconds pause now, in which I put my interviewer hat on. And in those 10 seconds, I will take one deep breath in, deep breath out. I relax my shoulder muscles, relax my neck muscles. And it's about 10 seconds. That's all I need to do to completely switch my state from whatever ratty I'm thinking about. Have no money. I need to. I don't know how to row with friend or whatever. What do I do tomorrow? From okay to here and now. I'm poised. So I've learned this technique and I've trained my body to go from fight and flight to calm, focused, let's kick ass in 10 seconds. In fact, I've got a technique that I sometimes do in emergencies where I can do that in literally one breath. These are techniques we can learn. Now, if we now add a little bit of spirituality in there, now we're all triggered or supported by different things. So if we say, okay, the parasympathetic nervous system is so great, and breathing needs to be calm, needs to be in such a way that you breathe into your tummy. So a deep breath, the vagal breathing is beautiful. If you actually were to look at what it does, it slows down the rate of breathing. With that, you slow down the adrenaline release, you slow down the sympathetic nervous system. So I can do that manually, physically, by just me knowing what to do. We can do that with meditation, where that automatically happens. We can do that with yoga. We can do that with deep prayer. Some of the Catholic prayers, and I think it's the rosemary beads. Don't quote me on that. It's just one of the prayers is actually so designed that it calms down your breathing rate to 6 a minute, which is exactly where we want to be when it comes to switching your state from fight and flight to calm. Now, so if you go to certain religious um, behaviors, these dudes knew what they were doing in the past. So you don't have to have some magic happening. It's actually all understanding the your body, your mind, and what is happening. So I've already given a few things away of things that you can do very quickly to change yourself. And it's not one magic big thing, and there's certainly no pill for happiness. In fact, happiness and joy is not a magical state that somehow happens to you. In my definition, joy is a series of habits you create and practice every day. Joy is something you have to practice. And once you have mastered it, then suddenly things are no longer so bad. And it is your perception changes dramatically. Did you know? What would you think, Gary? How many thoughts do you have a day? Ballpark.
70,000.
You are right. Ballpark is right. 60 to 80,000. How many of them are negative?
90%.
Okay, I quote 80, but fair call. Ballpark is right. So, yes, we are talking about actually the same thing here. So, I've got a lot of negative thoughts. And if I just believe them for what they are, most of the time they're rubbish. They are either focused on my past. That wasn't so pretty. So probably many things I can learn from that, but I want to do that with an active mind, not something that just sneaks in from the sidelines. Most of them focusing on the future. Most of them, again, catastrophizing, thinking negative. Oh my God, what will they think? Who are you to have a show on the internet, you bloody imposter? Neff inspiration? You're kidding me. You've just lost everything. You were married for 30 years and you ended up in a divorce. You are a failure. No one loves you. No one will ever want you. You're a fat beep. These are the typical kind of words. And these are the nice words that are sort of running around in my head. There are some others there that I really don't want to share on screen. But, these are faults. What I had to learn especially, well, I had lots of opportunity to learn in the last 18 months, is to actually cross-examine these faults and ask literally like in court, ask, well, show me the evidence for I'm a failure. And now show me the counter evidence. And I have to say, okay, and etc. So if I look at myself with everything that has occurred in the last 18 months, I mean, divorce, with the divorce, I had to sell everything. In an economic downturn, we got certainly not as much as we had paid for assets. Um, I did not end up with much. Yet, having worked all my life, I have to say, wow, big kick in the balls. Plus, I'm now living, I lived the picket fence dream kind of thing. I have two boys that are great. Well, the boys are living their own life. They have moved overseas. My wife is gone, so there is this emptiness, this void. And whilst it was, with hindsight, probably a loveless marriage, defined as I did not fulfill her needs, she did not fulfill my needs, because we were both too dumb to recognize what our needs were. So it's those kind of things. So there is still the grief for the living, the feeling of loss, the loneliness, because I lived such a different life, the loss of status, all those kind of things. So very negative things can be overwhelming for you. And of course, I came to very, very low points in that time. And when I said low points, I know exactly what you're thinking. And yes, that was what I was thinking too. I had a plan, I had a date, to the minute. I said, okay, that's the end. Because as an anesthetist, you have to make hard decisions. Because when you look at the intensive care and you stand at the end of the bed and there's someone who is sick like a dog because they've walked in front of a bus, every bone is broken, their brain is smashed, their insides are turned into mush, and somehow they're still hanging in there. And you think, okay, the chance of you ever making it, no way in hell. and you talk to the family and say, look, there is very, very, very little chance. I think prepare yourself for the worst, i.e., we are used to making such decisions as anesthetists. Now, when you then stand in front of the train wreck that is your life, you do the same pros and cons, and you come to a point where you say, okay, I'm sorry, that's it. It's intriguing because something pulled me away from that state. And there are so many people who have had very similar experiences out there. Why am I so open about it? I mean, a chance of suicidal thoughts is about 1 in 6, 1 in 10 in the American population, probably higher because they're underreported in the last year. When I stopped licking my wounds as the wounded animal in my cave and came back out and started talking to other men, the first 10 men I spoke to were typically a bit quiet, and then even quieter started saying, me too. The only reason I didn't take my life in the recent 2, 3 years was that I didn't know how to do it to my children. I didn't want. It was typically the children that kept them from taking a sharp exit. Not most. All of these men then said, "Wow, now I'm 2, 3, 4 years down the line. I'm divorced, and my life is so different." They have found either new hobbies or rekindled their love with old hobbies. We all have grown. We all have become emotionally more intelligent. We all have started living lives that we could not imagine in the depth of our darkness. So, therefore, for those of you listening who are in a similar state, please don't think for a moment you're alone. It is those people when you look around and think, wow, he has really got his shit together. A lot of people said that to me. Wow, look at Stefan. He really had his shit together. Gorgeous wife, everything fine. Kids were doing fine. Is raking in the money. And no, okay. There was no, forget that that facade, those masks that we're wearing. They're bullshit. Vast majority of bullshit. And I say that because some of the men who I talked to, I looked at them of wow, you got your shit together. They were natural leaders. They were men who I thought, wow, okay, these are men. And in a reality, they were close to yeah, stopping it all. That's so intriguing. So there is a huge undercurrent of trauma and drama out there. There is so much that can challenge you, and that is just life. Hard to take, but it is life. The problem is, it doesn't just start there. It doesn't start with your divorce. It starts when you were a little munchkin, because it often starts there. The adverse childhood experiences are setting us up with certain core beliefs, with certain ways of thinking, certain ways of behaving. About 50% of the population have fear avoidance or abnormal attachment styles, which make a huge impact onto their relationships later on. But we don't accept it. We have not done the shadow work to explore that. So there are so many of us who have so much work to do, and that's so hard. That's much of those behaviors keep persevering in later life. And here you are in the 50s, 60s. You're still procrastinating the shit out of life. You are still fearing the next email that is coming in. You're still uh, living the same pattern again. You see that the cliche, but actually a very real cliche of women who come out of an abusive household, saw family violence, who then end up in a abusive relationship, and then another, and then another. And you think, what the hell, have you not learned the lesson? But the reality is that one of the things that we are truly, truly afraid of as humans is the unknown, the uncertainty. So it's much easier to accept certainty of getting the shit beaten out of you every other night And then him saying, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Or her saying, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. It goes both ways, okay? Gender has got very little to do with that. Yes, okay, of course, there's a male dominance as far as violence is concerned, but the amount of men raped and beaten senseless um, by a loved one is wow, you would be amazed. So all that is a reality. There are so many things out there. So we've touched upon our power to change the physical state. We changed our emotions. I can reverse engineer emotions if I want to. And there are skills to do that. There are so many tools that you can learn, skills that you can learn, that you implement every day that make you far, far, far more resilient. But I guess you need to go through some hardship, and that hardship allows you to grow. And I think most of us will accept hardship. Oh yeah, I take that. Growth, not so much. That's a choice. And but I want to assure you, actually, guys, there is so much waiting for you to develop into. This phoenix burning to ashes is one of the best things that possibly could happen to you. Because if you're just a little bit uncomfortable, you don't implement change. Yes, you might be living in a relationship where you come home and you constantly get challenged, constantly your triggers are pushed, constantly there's unhappiness. If I look back, my wife and I often were upset that the children immediately left the dinner table. We had this image there that we as a family sitting around the dinner table talking about the problems and this kind of happy family kind of thing. The reality was, it's only later that my kids told me that. They said, look, we couldn't eat fast enough. They were inhaling their food. If they could have just got it down in one thing, they would have. And then to get up. Because they knew that within 2 sentences, mommy and daddy would be rowing. And they hated it. They would be going. And that certainly they were more outspoken in their teenage years. But later on, I realized they never brought friends around. And they told me, we never bring friends around because you will automatically row with mum. And that was hard to take. That was hard to take. And I didn't realize how bad my marriage was until it was no longer. And that was weird. That was so weird. Remember when I said, hey, gang assault, martial arts, good body, sex. Well, I lived that sex and that wild life with pleasure for a long time. And then I met what I thought was Mrs. Right, and I made this clear decision. From now on, I will be loyal, I will be true to her. No more messing around, just one girl. And I created that new goal. And anything not not relating to this girl would be a failure. So I created that new rule in my life. So I was true to her for 30 years, not realizing that we were really not meant for each other. And that is so hard to accept. That is so hard to live by. So I often get asked, well, if you had a time machine, would you go back and change it? What would you change? And I have to say, like so many of my guests on my show, no, I wouldn't change it. Because without all those hard knocks, I would have not become the man I'm now. And would I change it? No. Do I regret not learning those lessons earlier? Hell yes. Do I regret being a bad father? And which father does not say, I'm a bad father? Show me one guy out there, I show you a psychopath and sociopath. Um, all of us think we are bad fathers. But when I look back, I was not there for my kids because I was still running away. I was still escaping. Okay. So I was not there because I was working so hard. For me, a good father is someone who provides really well. So I equated being a good father with money and not spending time with my children. And maybe the same was also true for my marriage. I equated being a good husband to being a good provider. Maybe due to my own core beliefs, because I came from the wrong side of the tracks. So there was not much money there. So money played a different role in my subconscious. All those kind of things. Um, so there was this maelstrom of different emotions, core beliefs, all the crap that was sort of there. That ultimately, all these things are filters through which you see your version of truth. So right now, I mean, there must be, yeah, in this fraction of a second, there must be 5 million sensory inputs from my toes touching the floor, my wrists touching the couch, my ass touching the cushion, to I'm focusing on the camera here, plus I see the blue and of the sky, the green out there. Add it all together, it must be 5 million. Now, those 5 million inputs are filtered through. There's a major uh, ascending reticular system in your brain that does a lot of work. But then there are filters such as your core beliefs, your childhood experiences, your past, your right now maybe religious beliefs, your fears of the future. These are all filters that take up more and more and more and more and more and more and more information from those 5 million. Until at the very end, you've kept about 140 bytes of information from 5 million. How many gigabytes? 140 bytes. That's your version of the truth. Okay? You can already get the idea. We all have different versions of the truth. We all have different versions of what you see. And for us to become emotional and intelligent means that you actually start looking at those filters and see if they still are of value to you nowadays. My PTSD filter has certainly made me hyper aroused towards anything that could kill me. And that was quite cool. I became, as I said, a warrior. I became Rambo. But that was then flooding over into every other aspect of my life.
Mhm.
Nowadays, I've dealt with PTSD. I had some amazing input from a hypnotherapist. Plus, I wrote a book. Did shadow work. So now from 100% PTSD, I'm down to 10% PTSD. And I chose to keep those 10% because that makes me that person with the good situational awareness. So only because you've got something that you can label does not necessarily mean it's all negative. So some of the things are actually really good. Like for example, you have been sexually trafficked and have been abused as a child, but you are now this such a different powerhouse of information, of conviction, of living your life to the fullest and helping others. Okay, there is something has come out of it. You're no longer a victim. You are now on a mission to help others. So that makes you a very good thing. Gary, there's a good reason that you are providing this platform, that you are listening to me with sort of interest, me rabbiting on, because there is something that is driving you. There's something that made you take action. And that is beautiful. It's often trauma in our past. So your baggage can become your message. It shouldn't hold you back. It shouldn't be an anchor that drowns you. If it always keeps you in the past, then you have to work to do. Okay. And whatever has happened to you, there are reasons that it has happened. And the universe, God, angels, aliens, whoever's running the show, they have given you those experiences. And they're there for you to grow and learn from. And I have to say, yep, they really fought. I call them my angels. I believe they're energy beings out there. There's something out there that's far, far bigger than us. And I think they really think I'm a badass and I can take it. I think my mission in this life is actually to figure out what can I take and how can I take it with grace on the chin and then become a better being. So adapting such a lifestyle might actually be, or such a belief system might be rather beneficial. Now, please exchange. I call it source, I call it light beings, I call it energy. For you, it might be Jesus Christ. For you, it might be Buddhism or any other symbols. It's not for nothing that when you look at near death experiences, for example, depending upon what your belief system is, you will see Jesus Christ inviting you to the light, or you will see a whatever your belief system is. It'll be interesting. I've never had an NDE. Would be interesting to see what comes up for me. And I've certainly done a past life regression, and that was interesting. Again, I didn't see light beings, but I saw different lives. And so I don't know who is out there. They're still behind the curtain. They're still playing a role. Um, and I accept it for what it is and say, yes, there's something bigger out there. And by accepting that, I think life has become a bit easier for me. I mean, how did Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist, survive his concentration camp experience, the years in there, and then become very successful and nowadays a beacon of hope? How how can we turn even the darkest experience into something to learn from? Now, this is again a skill. This is something you can practice. This is something where you start questioning those filters and your perception of the truth. There's so much that you can do. And that's really where shadow work comes in. That's really where you working with a psychologist, maybe a psychiatrist, certainly counselor, certainly coach, maybe mentor, depending on where you are in your life and what kind of challenges you're facing. That's where you stepping outside of your cave becomes so important, because depression lies to you, addiction lies to you. They all tell you the same bloody lies. I wrote a book, Depression Lied to Me, where I brought female storytellers, female women together, and they shared their experiences with depression. And there are so many lies are relating to that. You're worthless. There is no hope. There's no love. There's no help, etc. And it comes in like a chameleon in so many colors. And it's the same there. And the truth is, these are lies, and you need to realize that. Okay, so much that you consider to be the truth is at best half truth, probably a lie. So start questioning those thoughts and really cross-examining it. I mean, that is really the one of the things that really helped me a lot, to say, well, what's the evidence? And the other thing that I never did in the past, celebrate my wins. Actually focus on, okay, I've actually done that. Wow. And sometimes it's really, really hard because my brain is still wired in such a way that there's a lot of fear there. And I need to recognize where it comes from. I can't get rid of the fear. It would be stupid of me to say, I don't want to live a life of fear. It's just, no more fear in my life. Well, no, you can't. With what has happened to me in my life, I'm sorry. That's just ludicrous. But I can recognize it for what it is. I can taste fear. I can smell fear. I can feel the. It's a sensation for me in my solar plexus, a certain kind of condensing, or in my lower back or mid back actually, like a ball of fire there. It is. I have learned to recognize it, and I've given it a name. It's the Viking warrior. Um, he's a cool dude. He's trying to protect me. Okay, so I've taken him on as a friend, and because I know he's there to protect me. Now he's a smelly friend. Okay, and he has got rough around the edges, and he has got a very double-edged sword that certainly has hurt me in the past. My fear, because it kept me from doing things, or it forced I felt compelled to do certain things that were typically not good for me. Okay, so ultimately I can't wish them away, but I can certainly recognize it for what it is and say, okay, so you're a messenger. What's the message? Message from my subconscious or message from up there? What do you try to tell me? Oh, sorry, you're telling me that I've not had breakfast. I am angry and ratty because at the moment of things have gone wrong. Okay, I'm a bit tired, didn't sleep so well last night. I'm dehydrated, yeah. I didn't take my vitamins yet. Ah, okay, that's five good reasons that I'm a bit fearful. Thank you for that. Thank you for the reminder. Let me actually take care of myself. And then the warrior goes back into his cave and said, cool, message done. So, okay. So, if we start to reframe our emotions as something positive, even if you hate them, in my case, fear is the predominant one, but for others, that might be shame and guilt. And you actually ask, go back and try to figure out, okay, where's this coming from? That's where the magic happens. I've trained now as a rapid results coach. I've trained in other forms of life coaching, and there's so many beautiful tools there. I want to share one with you to which it's one of the first things that I do with people who come to me and with regardless what it is. Let's say weight, okay? I'm fat, help me, I want to lose some weight. That's cool. Why? Why do you want to lose some weight? It's the five times why questions. And often it's far more than five. I say, oh, you want to lose some weight? Oh, why is that? Oh, look, I'm far too fat. Okay. Well, why is that? Well, I eat so much. But no, no, no. Why? What happens when you think you're fat? "Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it." And you start drilling down with why. Why do you want to lose 20 kilogram? Why do you, etc. And very soon, answers come out of you for being incredibly annoyed and think, why is he asking me all that? And very quickly, answers come out that you never even thought about. So by asking what a coach does, he asks questions to you, the right questions at the right time. And suddenly answers come out. Your subconscious answers questions that you didn't even know you had. And it turns out you want to be loved. You want to be accepted. You want to be respected. It often comes to shadow values. It comes to deep, deep down things that you were running away from. And this is beautiful. And a good coach will ask the right questions and you will come up with the answers. Then he will ask you even more questions that will let you bring together a plan with which you can start making changes in your life. And you might often in the first two sessions, you might actually realize, hang on, yes, the weight is what brought me here, but it's really there are other things that I need to address. And you start working on it. And by the time you have finished 2 months, 3 months later with a rapid results coaching, then you actually realize, actually, I've lost some weight. But that became sideline. That became sort of thing over there. Oh yeah, I've lost some weight. But look what else I've changed. And I think that is the power. That's where emotional intelligence comes in. But that's where the community and connection comes in. So we are all, and fuck's sake, I'm guilty as charged. I guess it comes back from my assault. I was there bleeding, and the only thing that stopped the attack was actually a tram coming, lights coming, people coming, and the dude actually walked off with his knife. And I stepped into the tram, past the conductor, sat down, and in my memory, everyone looked away. I'm not sure if it really was, but that is what was laid down in my memory. And I think in my memory it was laid down, you're going to be alone from now on. There's no one there to help you. No one gives a damn about you. And therefore, that core belief was laid down. And that kept me from seeking help for a long time. Nowadays, with me connecting, maybe with you, Gary, we too, today I'm talking. If you were a guest on my show, you would be talking. And very quickly, we have this kind of relationship. I have to say, wow, okay, we've got a far deeper relationship, the two of us, than I have with many of the men around me, because I just can't talk with them so honest. I would never share all those things. And you suddenly get this connection there of someone who understands you, and you feel it, you sense it, your own state changes. And after a good, raw, authentic discussion, both of the partners leave being a better being a different version of themselves. And that is just amazing. And that's what happens when you invite a coach into your life who has got a clear path to likely let you see your life in a different way, who allows you to bring forth the messages from your subconscious, to bring forth the answers. It's often the messages are the answers to your problems, often to problems that you didn't even know you had. But actually, once you make room in your life to actually sit still for a moment, stop running away with alcohol and social media scrolling and shit you eat, etc. Once you actually start implementing little steps here and there that completely change your life, that's where the magic starts. But you don't know where to start. I think that's the biggest problem in nowadays life. Who do you believe? You get constantly bombarded in those echo channels, these echo funnels of your social media algorithms, and they will quickly find out you actually are unhappy in your marriage. So suddenly you get all these kinds of messages from all kind of people who say, look, your marriage will suddenly get much, much better if you've got penis enlargement with these two tablets from India, or if you have got whatever shit is being brought to you. Some of these things may work, likely chance they don't. Um, there's no quick fix. But if you becoming a more resilient person who is far more in tune with the messages and is far more able to switch from fight and flight to a beautiful calm state, it's so much more likely that you will have a great life and as a flow-on effect, a great relationship. Gary,
Mhm.
do you that have you read stories or have you had guests on your show that were looking into attraction between men and women? What is
Oh,
the one the,
absolutely, yeah.
what is the one thing that women find insanely attractive?
Well, just based on what people have said to me, is that they're attracted to a strong presence, a strong man, someone who they feel can protect them.
True. And I would yes, that is true. I would rephrase that. Someone who is insanely confident, who
Mhm.
is very calm and confident, who doesn't have to prove himself, who doesn't stand there like, look at me, girl, with the big gold chain. That was me in the past, honestly. Ah, oh, I cringe. And nowadays, I think it is that confidence, that humility, vulnerability, but a very masculine confidence. There's toxic masculinity, we see that a lot around, and there is masculinity that is just incredibly healthy, and that is what vast majority of women will like to see subconsciously. They might reframe it in their own words or belief systems, but it's ultimately your confidence. Your and that confidence comes only from doing the shadow work. That confidence comes only when you actually address your demons, when you are humble enough to do the work. For example, one of the things that I learned very early on that changed my life was you do step 4 in the 12-step system, where you do these insanely long lists. And you write down, for example, John did that to me, and that's how it made me feel. And Lisa did that, and that's how it made me feel. And you just write these lists. And then a good mentor, a good person who works with you, a caseworker, will a few days later or weeks later say, let's come back to the list. Remember, John did that to you, and that's how it made you feel. Let's put a fourth column there. What was your role in that? How did you show up before that or after that? And did that have anything to do with you? And suddenly the story changes because you realize that John only responded like that because you were a prick to John, or you did something to someone else who John knew, and John is flying off the handle now. So suddenly your insights change. And that's the shadow work. That's actually where you begin to be the real leader. A leader is someone who is able to take it on the chin. And I like Choco. Um, what's his name? Christ. Um, Choco is a Navy SEAL who has written several books. One of them is Extreme Ownership. And it's a beautiful leadership book because he says, whatever happens,
Are you
it's
talking
your
about David Goggins?
no negative. Jocko Willink. Jocko
Oh,
Willink
okay.
is him. He is an amazing, amazing dude. Not without controversy. Yeah, let's give him that. But he wrote Extreme Ownership with Leave Babin, is another SEAL. And he says, whatever happens, it's your not your fault. It's the wrong way. He describes it differently. It's you have got a role to play. Because if someone below you stuffs up, then you need to ask yourself, did you give him the right information? Did you give him the right tools? Did you give him the right support to achieve his mission? If someone above you fucks up, then you need to ask yourself, did you provide the right information to your superior to make the right decisions?
Mhm.
Were you there in your best version to actually allow that mission to be accomplished? And it's beautiful. So once you take that into account, when you move away from, oh, it's my fault or it's his fault or the kind of blaming that we do so well in society, if you move away from that and you actually start taking ownership, well, that's where your life changes. And by you taking ownership, that is in with Jocko Willink, it's this beautiful picture taken out of the military. But if we actually do the same in our life, what will happen if we take ownership? What will happen if we use maybe similar training principles as the tier one operators do? Tier one operators, so the Navy SEALs, the Rangers, those kind of groups of people, they do fear inoculation. Very interesting for me because I'm a scaredy cat. Now that's a negative. Why do I use that word? That's bullshit. I am fear avoidance runs me, and sometimes paralyzes me, wants to paralyze me. Yet when I actually explore more about the fear feeling, then I have already grown so much in the last 2 years by literally working with so many different techniques on fear. Now, what does a tier one operator do? Well, do you think they like to jump out of an aeroplane? Do you think they like to throw themselves into surf that is 6 meters high and that has probably killed one or two of their comrades in the recent years? Yeah, no, they're all fear, full of fear. But they are training in that environment and they're putting themselves out there, outside of their comfort zone. And with that, they get used to fear. They understand fear. They are able to no longer be blocked by fear, but harness the fear to actually achieve a mission, to make the right decisions under pressure. What was to happen if you train yourself in a similar way to do that, so that now, when you're under stress and under distress, that you can still make good decisions rather than being paralyzed by your fear? So that is the example of fear. Let's take other emotions that you don't like. Maybe your whole self appraisal, the way that you look at yourself. Do you truly love yourself? When you stand naked in front of the mirror and look yourself in the mirror, top to bottom, do you like what you see? And what do you see? When was the last time you told yourself, Stefan, I love you? Or in your case, I would rather say, Gary, I love
I
you.
was going to
If
say,
you say,
I don't think I've ever said, Stefan, I love you. I mean, I
yeah,
would
that's
just because you're a
my
nice
point.
guy and everything, but
My point. So maybe I need to be a bit more careful there. So the and in see, I have learned this technique, and when I was in really dark times, that technique helped me tremendously. So let me share it with you right now with you guys out there. And if you're listening to that, what I'm doing right now, I'm just sitting comfortably there. I actually hug myself. So right hand on left shoulder, left hand on right shoulder. I've closed my eyes and I'm curling up a bit. And I'm using all the pressure that I can, all the force that I can have. I'm squeezing my shoulders together. And I say, Stefan, I love you. I truly love you. Look how far you've come. Look what you have survived. Look what you have done. You're such an amazing man. I love you with all the things, with all my heart. I really, really think you're awesome. You're an amazing dude. Keep going, just one baby step at a time. You can do it. I love you to bits. That was about 15 seconds. That's what is called havening. What I've physically done with that bear hug that I gave myself was I've triggered a huge dopamine release in my brain, oxytocin release in my brain. I have triggered love truly coming down on me. Or even right now, before I did the technique, I was probably a little bit more tense in my shoulders, a little bit more fight and flight, because I'm presenting here, I'm showing myself here, I'm putting myself out there, which is scary. But now I'm actually calmer. And I noticed that I want to talk slower. So I physically changed my state. And I show myself love and compassion, radical self compassion. And that is so beautiful. So many of us have no clue how to do that. We beat ourselves up. You know, it's how often do you flagellate yourself? Oh, you idiot. You dropped the milk. Oh, you asshole. How dare you? You kicked over dad. Oh my God. Instead of being able to laugh about it. So there's so much there. You see already there's so many techniques that you can incorporate in your daily life. I've only just scratched the surface. And I've only talked about emotional kind of techniques as a functional medicine doctor, as a health mentor. My God, I can give you a diet that makes you depressed and anxious, give you an anxiety attack within the next 1 to 2 weeks. Let me just change your food for a bit and you will see. Or I can calm you down in a way that you have not even considered that. And people have done the studies. There's a beautiful study out of, I think, Finnish prisons where they changed the food, and within a week, their violent attacks and violent incidences dropped by 30%. So just by changing food, by changing hydration and putting other lifestyle changes like focus on sleep and focus on hydration alone, that has in one large company resulted in 10 less sick days per year in chronic headache sufferers, migraine sufferers. But just there, not a tablet was dished out. It was just lifestyle change, hydration and sleep. And so there are so many things that we can do which alone will probably not make the world of a difference. But when combined, 1 plus 1 makes 3, and 1 plus 1 plus 1 makes 5. And that's amazing. That's where functional medicine comes in, where we actually look at, okay, what's really going on in your body? So you have got erectile dysfunction and your life is not so good. Well, yes, Viagra might help. Or let's figure out what's actually going on with you, man. Tell me more about your life. Okay, let's figure out the root causes. So you go to your GP, or they do testosterone. Testosterone is low. So, okay, you need testosterone. Well, actually, testosterone does something to the libido, but it does very sweet nothing to the erectile dysfunction. So, hang on. So, what's going on here? So, if we now to look reality figure wise, if you as a middle aged man come to me and say, I've got erectile dysfunction since the last half a year, there's probably about a 40% chance that in the next 5 years you've got a heart attack because your little pecker down there is the canary in the coal mine as far as cardiovascular health is concerned. So you can say, okay. So there are so many things because they're all linked together. So we can work on the emotions, but if we only work on emotions and forget the physical side of things, you're doomed. If you only give tablets for some perceived Prozac deficiency, well, guess what? That will not. I mean, that we see it now why the world is so unhealthy. If we now combine those things, if you change your lifestyles, if you do the shadow work, if you're working with a coach to help you address whatever is needed to be addressed, sort of start chipping away at things, and then bring in a team of experts where you are the dumbest person of the team. So in your case, that might be that you've recently been discovered to be a diabetic, that you've got erectile dysfunction, that you're dumb as a brick as far as your emotions are concerned, that you have not moved your body in 25 years, etc. So there might be a number of things that we need to do. You need to learn about nutrition. Now, I can teach you that, okay? Or maybe a nutritionist who is there, maybe a personal trainer who is trained in nutrition, but also in encouraging you. Maybe we need to send you to a urologist because there might be something seriously wrong with your sexual organs. Who knows? Let me do a physical examination. We need to look at your diabetes, which that is systemic inflammation, systemic metabolic chaos. And that's not a diagnosis, that's just a warning sign. We can actually reverse diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is it's neither here nor there. Let's reverse it. Let's not manage your insulin. Let's actually reverse the root causes and get rid of the diabetes. And so on and so on and so on. You get the idea?
Mhm.
So you are not that easy kind of here's a pill and now you're happy. You are a very complex, beautiful web of of inputs, which gives us those beautiful opportunities to start pulling a bit here, pulling a bit there, adding a bit here, taking away a bit there. And suddenly, over a period of 3 months, 6 months, a new version of you is appearing. A version that is very clearly stronger, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and who is just such an amazing dude or dudess, or however you define yourself. Okay, that applies for girls, that applies to boys, and those who haven't made up their mind yet is absolutely fine. Okay, let's be clear about that.
Mhm.
There is a better life waiting for you, and that's true for virtually every one of us, including Dalai Lama. I'm sure if I was to speak to him one day, there would be things where he thinks, well, actually, Stefan, let's talk. I'm sure that there's some shadow values and things like that he does. So I talked a lot, but I think I so wanted to share with you that there is such hope out there and that there's so many ways how your life can improve. And you notice we spoke a little bit, maybe 5 minutes about sobriety. Sobriety that's pretty, but it's only one of the things how you have been coping and dealing with the pain. Once you actually address all the other stuff that's really of importance, those addictive behaviors sort of become uninteresting. This is, yeah, I'm sober, now what? That's so often that people are focusing on. That's so often, and that's where I've got maybe my criticism of systems like AA, which so focus on staying sober, staying sober, staying sober. Um, where in reality, if we focus on creating the version of you who you were supposed to be and who you deserve to be, then the sobriety, yeah. Okay, stop talking sobriety. Okay, let's talk about, I don't know, how can I be the best husband that I possibly could be? What I've got 5 minutes now, right now, 5 minutes. What could I do in these 5 minutes that truly will make a difference to my life? I can come up with 10 different things right now in the next 5 minutes that I can do that will improve my life because I'm looking with curiosity towards the future and towards the present right now. What could I do right now to make me the best version of myself? Once you adopt this mindset, life will change. And it's amazing. And that's the key message. Guys, come along for the ride. You've made a huge start by listening to me. That shows me that you're ready to take action because otherwise you would have been so rabid in your head. After 5 minutes, you would have switched off. Um, so you're actually maybe I've planted a seed there. So the question now is, okay, how can you continue? How can you make that seed grow? There's certain ingredients you need: the water,
Mm.
the fertilizer, things like that. But what does it take for you to grow? And I think many of you, there is so much tension in you, which is good. There's so much pain in you. It's good. Because I see it as a bow and arrow. So you've got your bow in your hand, and circumstances have pulled that string back and back and back and back. And you're nearly at breaking point. You just want to let rip of that arrow. But you don't know where to shoot at. You don't know what to aim at. But your discomfort is so strong. And I think the key will be for you to begin to visualize your goal. What is truly the goal? And that's another thing that a good coach will do with you. He will focus you on that goal, on that endpoint. Not that I want to lose weight, but actually why? What is that endpoint there? And then reverse engineer the steps that are needed to get there. So you are now no longer the cork bobbing on the ocean, drifting with winds and with currents, but you're actually, yes, you're in the ocean and all the currents and the winds are there, but you're with your bow and you're actually aiming and saying, no, I want to go there. And then you let rip. And that's your first arrow flying. And that first arrow might be, well, whatever it is, you're taking action. And I think you're already on the way because you've taken action to listen to here so far. And guess what? If you just now, after this interview, have a big glass of water, drink it, and just close your eyes and reflect a little bit and ask, what three things could I do right now based upon what I've just heard, what I've just felt? What three things could I do right now to change my life? Your brain will not come up with three, it will come up with 20. You just need to actually pick three and actually do them. So now, okay, take action. And once you do that, that's amazing. Gary, that's where the magic starts. Take action. But you need to know what, okay, how to take action. And so many of us are working so hard. We take action, but in all the wrong ways. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So how do people reach you to take action? Because I think a lot of people
Mm.
need help. They need that coach. They need that
Right. Mm.
inspiration. And you've obviously been there and back again and again.
Mm.
And the thing about you, Stefan, is from what I see and what I hear, you don't stop. You keep learning, you keep
Oh,
pushing, you
yeah.
keep
Exactly.
growing. You get kicked
Exactly.
in the nuts, you get back up, you go, well, now I'll try this. I get kicked in the
Mm.
nuts, and now I'm going to try
Mm.
this. And I just,
Yeah.
with all the different techniques, all your modalities, all the different experiences you've
Mm.
had, I mean, that's a great
Mm.
trait, my friend, because at some point, like you said, I guess the universe just thinks you're a badass, so they're just going to keep kicking your ass until. So how do
Yes.
people
Have,
reach out to you to get
uh,
your inspiration, to get your teachings, to get your
absolutely.
trainings to work with you so that they can come,
Mm.
break that hump?
If you go to neffinspiration.com, all written together, Neff, Neff, inspiration.com, and that's my hub when it really comes to my coaching practice, when it comes to being a speaker, when it comes to my show, etc. So everything related to non-medical is there. And having said that, if you start there and it's clear that you really have got a medical question and really want to see me or work with me as a functional medicine doctor, then there's a clear link there for you to jump over to my other website, Neff Functional Medicine, where we then can look at you in a different way. And I've got on my website, there's some clear delineations because here I am. I'm a very strange animal because at the one hand I'm a doctor, okay, a medical doctor. Then I'm a mentor. Then I'm a coach. Then and I've got about 15 other hats. And it's quite important that we delineate that. Okay, you wouldn't ask your electrician to do a quick rectal examination, or your hairdresser to build you an extension on your house. Okay, so you asked the right person. And since I can be different roles, I've delineated them quite clearly. So, but I
Well,
think each of these,
your website has a lot on it. Your website
thank you.
went down your rabbit hole of Dr. Neff, and I love the YouTube channel. There's a lot
Oh,
of
thank
great
you.
stuff on there, a lot of
Thank
great
you.
shorts, a lot of great videos, a lot of great
Yeah.
inspiration. But the website really has a lot of great stuff on there. I mean, you do a
Thank you.
lot of different things.
Mhm.
You offer a lot of different stuff, and that's pretty awesome. But like I said, because you keep learning, you keep expanding, you keep growing, you keep changing. Maybe you're
And
forced
that's the
to.
only way.
Maybe the
That's right.
universe keeps
That's right.
kicking your ass
But
until you have
why
to.
do you think I became a coach in breathing? Because I really knew I thought I knew it all as an anesthetist. For crying out loud, breathing is my life. But then there are suddenly dudes turning up on the scene like Wim Hof and who are doing very intriguing breath work.
Hmm.
And I have to say, okay, that's some interesting shit. I need to learn more. So I'm insanely curious. And then I look at that and say, well, okay, that does maybe work for a different clientele. But for those people that are like me, or what works for me? I think that's really the question that I always have been asking.
Yeah.
I became a hypnotherapist because I felt such a relief when a hypnotherapist helped me with my PTSD. So later on, I said, well, stuff it, I want to learn more. And I want you to be as curious, guys. Okay? If
Yeah.
you're a patient, then I want you to know more about your disease than your doctor. If you are a struggling human with mainly your marriage, then I want you to understand more about love languages, more about how to be the best version of a husband while still remaining true to yourself than anyone else in the world. Once you take that ownership, that is where the magic happens. Don't listen to gurus, but listen to opinions and see what works in your life. And it can sound really good on paper or from a coach. Then you try it in real life. Like when I tried to change things in my marriage, how often did my wife say, "Don't you psychologize me?" And it was clear that, I could not have those meaningful discussions. And what a shame it was, because it ended up in a divorce. But it is what it is. Okay? So only because something doesn't work out for you, then maybe that technique was not right for you. Maybe that coach was not right for you. Maybe that doctor was not right for you. I don't care. But don't give up. Don't give up. You've perceived a problem. So there are two options. Either there's a real problem, probably, or your perception is so skewed that that in its own right is a problem. Either way, figure it out, take action. And then once you have done that, think, okay, what's the next low hanging fruit? Oh, that. Well, that's easy. Okay, I'm ready every day because I'm eating donuts, have about 20 cups of coffee, am dehydrated, and then sit in front of the telly. I'm not doing any exercise. Could that have to do with my anxiety? I'm not sure. Okay, there's so much you can do. So don't give up hope. Listen to Gary and the other guests that are coming onto his show because there are some good dudes and dudesses there. There are some people out there who truly, truly have made it their mission to change themselves. With that, they become more resilient, became the beacons of hope and of light that are missing in your life now. And I want you to listen to those people, connect with those people. And if I'm one of those people, connect with me. And let's see how far we two can go together. And let's see who you can become until our path together has come to a natural end. Because you might have come further than me. Oh, good luck on that, because that would be a hard journey. But okay, you might find another coach that for a new problem or for something that is more pressing, where I might not be the right man or woman for it. Okay, so you choose whatever's right. But there's hope out there. Please go out there, take action, and make make your life worthwhile living. However hard it is right now, you can do it. So that's the past does not equal the future. I think that's the key message I want to send you today. So thank you so much for listening out there, guys. And Gary, again, thank you so much for bringing out the best in me, bring out the best in your guests, and for providing this platform. It's much, much appreciated and much needed.
Well, it's very, very much needed, and everything that you've done, everything that you're doing, everything that you're moving towards, all comes from the foundation of your truth. And I think just the fact that you are such a gifted sharer, you're willing to be vulnerable, put yourself out there, makes people feel that, all right, I can work with him. He's been there and back. He understands. He's not just going to lay shit on me. He's walked the talk and walked the walk. And I think that goes a long way, Doc. And I know that people appreciate that. So thank you for
Thank
being
you.
so open and just sharing with us. And I know that you're going to just help so many people. So grateful that you came on.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, sir. All right, everybody. You were just exposed to the amazing Dr. Stephan Neff. And please look for Neff Inspiration. There's a whole bunch of great tools there. There's a whole bunch of inspiration there. I know that you're going to find something that works for you and you're going to love it. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it, Doc. I'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.